Hey peeps and everyone at our channel. So I am going to be changing this up a little bit and coming at you with the two most important videos I've done so far. This is not going to be easy content, and this is content that if anything happens to me, if my content disappears, I want people to save physical copies of this via download or screen record. If you don't have the download feature on paid YouTube services, please use screen record and just play the video while you screen record it and save copies of these next two videos, as well as the final funeral arrangements that I posted. That is just in case someone tries any legal maneuvers over me, since I have been left helpless. And since my family, since my parents let all of this happen to me and probably caused it by having so many people in their life of CRIME circling around every one of their victims till they just run those people into the ground, that shows the level of care they've given me thus far. All the injuries in my documenting injuries video should be referenced when it comes to not letting my family pull any legal maneuvers here in this, if they let that happen. And this is also what happened to my grandpa, which is what we're going to talk about today. We are going to talk about famous inventor Norman Liberty, whose patents you can look up online, for the canning machine that helped feed America out of the Great Depression and the conveyor belt. We're going to talk about how his innovations helped America and how America treated him as a result. So last night, I was watching a documentary about other famous inventors, and Nikola Tesla came up. And the moment he did, I was like, that's what they did to my grandpa. They Tesla'd my grandpa. The U.S. government and my family Tesla'd my grandpa. Here's what my grandpa did. During the Great Depression, he had to become a Depression-era bootlegger with the Gambino mob in order to survive and feed his family. Once the Depression was over, he went back to college, got his engineering degree, and went on to invent the canning machine that on the heels of the Great Depression helped feed America out of the Great Depression and put measures in place so that we would never suffer a Great Depression again, which was his goal. So he wanted to invent the canning machine so that we could all have canned foods. That way people could store food for emergencies, food would be cheaper, it would last longer, and hopefully there would never be a food famine in America again, which wasn't helpful during the pandemic when inflation went up and there were shortages and you couldn't even always get canned foods like you wanted, at least not out here where you also often can't find toothpaste or underwear and basic life necessities, because that's how Washington is. Washington likes to impede on the rights of all of its people and view all of its people as either perpetrators or victims. You're either brought up here to commit horrible acts or you're victims of it. There is no in between up here. They don't really cater to a normal lifestyle up here in Washington. Anyhow, so my grandpa, in order to invent the canning machine, there was one little problem and future innovation that had to happen in order for him to invent this wondrous thing that would feed all of America forever and ever. Like Nikola Tesla was trying to provide a source of energy for all people in America, my grandfather wanted to make sure everyone could eat, because in the Holy Family, after Jesus fed the masses, feeding the people, super important values. Like I said, my uncle, who founded Cirque du Soleil, Guy Laliberté, started a water foundation because issues involving access to clean water for all people is also another important Holy Family value, as well as feeding the masses, and just generally the miracle things that we should have been allowed to do. Now, my grandpa was allowed to do that much before they stole his life away from him. So in order to invent the canning machine, he first had to invent the conveyor belt. Now, the conveyor belt, obviously everybody knows what that is, right? Like when you put your groceries on that line at the checkout and all your groceries move forward, that's a conveyor belt. When you get your suitcases and luggage at the airport, that's a conveyor belt. That's how much my grandpa helped America. That is his contributions to America that changed the world for the better. Now, unfortunately, here's what happened to Tesla. They didn't like the idea of a new energy source in the energy industry, which according to one documentary, and I'll say allegedly, at the time the energy industry was controlled by the mob. And the mob wanted to keep their monopoly over that, and they did not want to entertain other ideas for free energy, but they also had some safety concerns because he was going to be running the energy through the ground and sticking light bulbs in the ground to like prove that it was working, which I could understand how they might need to rework a few things, make sure it's safe. And rumor has it they orchestrated an event to make it look like when he did that free energy demonstration that it was far too dangerous. They say that he had over 100,000 different documents and inventions that the government may have eventually gotten their hands on. Now, Tesla was brought over here from another country after the Holocaust, or before, no, 1800s. So we're talking 1800s, early 1900s. And one of the things Nikola Tesla said that he was experiencing is very similar to what me and my grandfather experienced. He said that he was receiving radio signals from space, and at the time, that this would have been around that time period. Like, how was that possible in the late 1800s, early 1900s to receive radio signals from space? What was going on up in space at the time that was man-made that they weren't telling the people about, that allowed them to surveil famous inventors that they brought over from other regimes and probably wanted to keep a close eye on while they benefited from the innovations of scientists and stuff? Anyhow, Tesla felt that he was being monitored and watched. And I guess he did run some experiments to determine that it was in fact radio signals from space. You can go check out some documentaries. Maybe I'll put a couple in the description if people want to know more about the life of Tesla. So when more than one famous inventor gets taken down in the exact same way, you got to start wondering what is going on with our American government where this sort of thing keeps happening. See, my grandpa never got the credit he deserved for his inventions. And after his inventions made him a lot of money and he was able to retire from that other life and said that there was enough money for every grandkid to go to college, get their first homes paid for, and start a business, and that's what he had wanted his money to be used for. That and he shouldn't have had to work again. And it should have just been an easier, better, like he had succeeded in doing for his family what he had set out to do. He wanted me to go to college. In fact, he wanted me to go to Reed College. He wanted me to be a lawyer or an engineer. And since I was good with inventions and fixing design flaws and stuff with my grandpa and good at architecture, that might have been something I might have been good at. So my mother tanked my math skills while I was learning math in school so that I would always be behind in math, and that would never become a reality for me. Grandpa said he wanted my mom to work with me more on my math skills so that I could possibly look into an engineering degree. He wanted me to go to St. Andrews if I didn't end up going to like Reed or like an engineering program. So he was looking into options for me at that time based on my level of intelligence and my aptitudes. I was also studying dance and helping out in the arts, which I was also very good at. and loved, and I was also trying to be, you know, that Holy Family member and uphold those duties as well. So I was a very busy little kid, always learning something. And at one point, my mother ran my grandpa's life into the ground, put weapons contractors on him and the entire family because I was there to eyewitness it the day that she did that. Next thing you know, he's having break-ins, theft, his health is being affected, his life is being run into the ground in every which way. And it turns out the contractor that my parents used was with Lockheed. Now, Lockheed's going to come up again here in just a second because I'm going to segue into the topic of our second video here. And I might just discuss it here. So the Turpin case is one that was a huge interest to me on account of I know what being tortured as a child feels like. The husband of the Turpin family worked for Lockheed Martin, and so did my mommy's contractors. Now, when my mommy was getting set up with these contractors, one of the options that she was offered was commissioning studies. This means signing people up to be illegally human tested upon, whether it was physical weapons testing or psychological testing or torture testing. And she signed little children up for that. But it sounds like the Turpins did too. That's what I'm going to go with now. That's my operating theory now, is that the Turpin family was involved with the MOB and involved in commissioning illegal human testing on children, just like my family might have been. And I'm going to guess when they prosecuted that case, those children were not informed and they might deserve some government reparations. But also, it is a huge, scathing indictment to Lockheed Martin's activities and why the federal government keeps allowing them to do this stuff, why they allow them to work with the mob, why they allow them to illegally human test on children. I also believe that the recent cattle mutilations down in Texas might be connected to weapons testing. They can aim a laser from space and cut someone's eyes out with the technology they have these days. And when there's no animal tracks or footprints found at the scene of these mutilations, the only thing I can think is Lockheed Martin's running routine weapons testing to make sure their gear is still operational, make any repairs or upgrades needed, and we have rashes of cattle mutilations periodically, which means every once in a while they have to go back and redo those tests. So there's a bunch of cattle ranchers down in Texas that may also deserve reparations from Lockheed Martin. Since I talked to a sheriff down there who was working on that case recently, and she actually found this theory very interesting. And she did confirm to me that Lockheed is in Texas. They are also in Portland, Oregon, and they have expanded to 46 of 50 states. But back in the 80s, when my mom first made contact with a Lockheed contractor, they were only in 2 states, California and I think Minnesota, where their main hindquarters is. And over the last 2 decades, with my mom and this contractor's help, because I remember them discussing how he said that his people at Lockheed Martin wanted to expand into other states, and my mom said that if he did what she wanted, he would help. She would help with that and help Lockheed expand. Next thing you know, they've got an office in Portland, and so on and so forth. Now, if you go look at my TI map study, where I basically I put a map on the internet and I let people who believe they were targeted individuals across the country drop a pin on their location and what they were experiencing. This map got so full that it couldn't hold anymore. We're talking thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people across the country and worldwide. Now, at the time, I said that this was only for people in America. I said the map, we could not do anything about people who are targeted in other countries. And so that it would be pointless to report. But regardless, we got thousands of those too. That tells me that Lockheed Martin's expansion into 46 of 50 states has only had the result of getting everybody on mass surveillance, and everybody is now being illegally human tested upon. It now seems like it's a large portion of our American population, and there are people out there who are being targeted and watched who don't even know it. When you have a run of bad luck where everything goes wrong and no one will help you, you might be a targeted individual. Now, my grandpa got targeted. What they did to him running his life into the ground after the innovations he made for America was heinous and disgusting. This is stuff I don't think the American government or Lockheed should be able to get away with anymore. They are now the true global Teists. They are now the biggest worldwide THREAT that this world has ever seen. And it pains me and saddens me to have to be the one that had to realize that and say that now. If we weren't all already dead or about to get dead, we would be entitled to huge reparations, but so does every targeted individual across the country. So do the Turpin kids and Dee Dee Blanchard's kid. Since my mom knew Dee Dee Blanchard, I can only assume that her daughter was also used for illegal human testing, because my mom gave other people the ability to sign their kids up for that. That was part of the services she offered, was if you wanted to knock your kid off or get paid for illegal human testing on your kid because you just like to torture people, my mom was the one to go to for that. And one day out on the streets, she got surrounded by a group of about 25 mothers, all clamoring to want to sign up to knock their kids off through her. And I remember my mom screaming, "We are not just a free service for you guys to bring and dump your kids off to get knocked off. If we help you, you are going to have to put in the work, and you are going to have to do stuff for us to be worthy of that." Meaning that they would also have to work to get their kids dead. And that was the valuable service my mother offered, was just massive child slaughter, massive illegal human testing on minors, and across people across the whole country, of which there could now be thousands. It happened to my grandpa. And it sounds like if more than one famous inventor has gone down the way that Tesla did, then that's when you start thinking, okay, how much is the American government actually behind this stuff? So this is the message that I want people to carry forward if anything happens to me. My grandpa was Tesla'd by the American government and Lockheed and my family, who were helping the American government and Lockheed, probably getting paid for it. And anytime you see a Lockheed plane go down and kill a celebrity, they probably owe reparations for that too. And I think at this point, the amount of people that Lockheed and the federal government may have seriously harmed or gotten dead is so great that this is going to be a big embarrassment for them if this ever comes out. And that's why I want people saving these copies and going forward with this message no matter what happens to me. I probably won't make it. Lockheed has developed a heart attack gun and a cancer ray. And I might be sitting here with untreated cancer. And they may have left me to sit here and suffer and die. I don't know if you know how agonizing it is to be stuck home without medical treatment when you are disabled, what the agony and pain of that is. But that's what the federal government felt that I was worth as the last Grail descendant, the last descendant of the Statue of Liberty family. And the fact that they used that family for this sick stuff makes the government as evil as it sounds. If that's what you're thinking when you're hearing this story, you're right on. A lot of the UFOs people see in the sky are probably nothing more than Lockheed crafts being tested at night. I ran into those a couple of times. Sometimes they are drones, sometimes they are bigger crafts, sometimes they are crafts that don't look man-made. The one that I saw one night did not even look like a man-made craft, so I went back through MUFON files to see if anyone else had ever seen it. And lo and behold, this craft was seen over Iran in the year 1976, meaning this technology that I was witnessing up in the sky that seemed far beyond man-made capabilities. This thing was hovering silently in the air. It ejected 3 triangular craft from the middle of it. It was this giant glowing orb. And it was flashing through rainbow colors like these lights on here. And that's why I use these lights, because that's what the orb looked like up in the sky that night. And it was freaking massive. And it was able to hover silently up in the air. And it was over Troutdale airspace, meaning that somebody gave Lockheed Martin access to Troutdale Airport airspace late at night to do some tests or to do some searching for people. It was shortly after that that my life started getting run into the ground severely. This would have been the spring of 2009, and I have been suffering with the life rundown ever since, just like they did to my grandpa. So I think they found me that night. Anyhow, these 3 triangular craft had amber lights at each point on each craft, and they backed out from the middle of this giant orb hovering in the air silently, and they each took off in different directions. So when people see giant triangles out there, it's probably Lockheed. It's probably Lockheed. And then I sat and witnessed this giant orb craft perform what seemed like impossible maneuvers in the sky, as in it was zipping across the sky in a split second. We're talking, it almost looked like it was so quick, it almost looked like it was teleporting, just like boop, boop, just zipping from one spot to another in the sky. And then it just started getting smaller and smaller off into the distance until it was no bigger than the stars in the sky, and it looked like just another star up there. So sometimes the stars up there might not be stars that you see in the night sky. It's just a craft that is so far away that's about the size it comes across when you see it with the human eye. My dog witnessed it that night and went ballistic, and another neighbor witnessed it. After that neighbor went on record with MUFON to say that he did witness it as he was pulling in the parking lot as this craft was moving further off into he only caught the tail end of it. He didn't actually see the craft eject 3 triangular craft, but he caught the tail end of it. And this is the moment that Skinny Puppy referred to before the lyrics changed here recently as triple atomic drones. Because one of the last nights that I saw Ogre and had to help out with a show back around that time would have been shortly after that event in 2009. We were at a show, and my friend looks over and says, "Tell Ogre about the UFO." And I was like, oh my God, why did you have to bring that up? Like maybe let's not. But Ogre was like, wait, you saw a UFO? Tell me about it. What did you see up there? And I explained, it was a giant orb, and it ejected 3 triangular craft, and it was hovering silently, and we're baffled. We don't know what it means. And then I put forward my theory that it was probably man-made, probably drone, probably, I wasn't calling it aliens. My friend at the time, she's a big fan of aliens and ufology, so she was sure it was aliens, but I was like, I didn't see any aliens. All I saw was a craft, and that could still be man-made, even if it's capabilities that we don't know exist yet. But these are capabilities that, according to MUFON files and one documentary that I saw on the History Channel about the case in Iran, what happened back in 1976 was this craft was seen over Iranian airspace, and Iran sent up two dogfighters to try to disable it and get rid of it. and this giant orb craft disabled all of their craft, and they almost crashed. And after I saw this craft above my complex one night in the Gresham, Troutdale, Oregon area, I followed MUFON reports for the next 6 months. And at first I didn't see anything. Like, I was wondering if other people might eventually report it, if they had that craft out again. And MUFON came out and they studied the whole thing. They did soil samples, they did surveys, they did a whole psychological interview and decided that I was sane, and they had me go through a list of known craft and things like, could it have been a weather balloon, where you have to go look through like pictures of like a big long list of this is what we know has been in the sky before, could it have been any of these things? And I couldn't find a single thing that matched it on the list. And so they declared it a bona fide unknown, or UFO, unidentified object. Now, we're not saying that just because it's unidentified that it's necessarily aliens. I don't necessarily believe in aliens. I do believe in man-made technology that we just haven't been told about yet. But why haven't we been told if it's been around since 1976? Now, Ogre referred to it as triple atomic drones. So does this craft have atomic capabilities, and did we have that back in 1976? And why were we freaking in Iran? Who knows? Anyhow, then this craft was seen down in South America, and there were about 5 other reports that trickled into MUFON. And then it was seen over in, I don't know if it was Bolivia, the Czech Republic, somewhere over in those other areas. And it made the news over there. It was on their news over there because people spotted it. And there's also now a slew of videos on the internet. You can go look up the Omvi Diamond. That's what they call it. That's what we saw in the sky. It looks more round and orby until you zoom in really, really close on it. And whatever this frickin' thing is, it can do some really astounding frickin' things. It was baffling at the time because when you see something like that in the sky, you wonder, okay, there's either technology we're not being told about, or what else could it be? So if they had atomic craft back in 1976 and were using it as a spy thing, then they were probably looking for me that night, and they sent 3 craft out from that big orb that went off in other directions, I'm assuming searching for other victims that they planned to exterminate. All I wanted to do was do good for the world. I didn't follow my parents into a life of bad stuff. I tried to stay away from them. I lived in a different state. I had my own home and my own life in a different state. I was trying to go to college and just have my own life. And I was prevented from doing that. And I'm going to guess now at this point that it's probably because the American government Tesla'd my grandpa and had to get rid of all the witnesses in the family. And that's probably why they let my mother just continue K'ing off family member after family member, friend after friend. But I'm thinking their body count is much, much higher than that, because I also think that they may have been involved in some other types of attacks, which now would bring to light that more attacks than we realize may have been false flags and planned by the government. We're talking Boston Marathon. We're talking some train explosions. We're talking, I think they have been paying my parents to commit acts like that while slowly K'ing their family who are witnesses off for decades and decades. Now, when you run a slaughterhouse in the mob, there are certain rules, and one of those rules is that profits are capped at $2 million. Your mob cannot make any more than $2 million if you decide to run an Esser house. So, the fact that my parents may have been confiscating rich people's estates and rich family members' estates. My grandpa was rich because he was a famous inventor. Aunt Victoria Chapin, my stepdad said was wealthy. Both were placed under conservatorships, defrauded, and gotten dead. Then 2 other family members they brought across state lines. Now, when it came to my grandpa and my grandmother, my mother let them live longer, but I think it's only because she likes slow suffering deaths. She likes to sit and watch as people slowly go downhill until they're in diapers in a nursing home. She really, really gets off on that, and I think that's her serial killer MO. That's her emotional gratification she gets. That and cane children. When I was little, she used to tell me that if I met any talented kids at school that might be interested in a life in the arts, I should let her know. And then after she had rounded up a ton of my friends, you know, some of those people ended up dying. And I think she said that her goal was nothing lay under the sun, to quote another lyric. Her goal was anyone with the light in them had to go, you know, like the Dreams of Lights kids in the fandom of 16 Volt. There's that story's up, so if you want to go know about the Dreams of Lights kids in the 16 Volt fandom, that's up there. These were kids that had dreams of this light. And they're all over the world. They're all over the world. When the band went out on tour for the first time, they discovered that. They discovered that it wasn't just kids in Portland, that it was everywhere. And these kids tended to be more creative and talented. These were kids like AP, Arthur Park, who is now deceased without an obituary. These were kids like Tyler Kruger, Alexander Eisen, myself, and a lot of other kids that went on to make contributions in the arts. And I think my mom's only goal was to identify and get dead the talented ones and let the bad ones, like April and Maria, go on to get to do whatever they wanted. And I think she gave those bad people permission to hurt the good ones too. And I think that was her goal all along, was like, and this is not how you find future cures for cancer and make scientific innovations. You know, if the American government has been paying my mom as a government assassin to purposefully round up and K talented people that have made serious contributions to the world, this is not how we're going to cure cancer and make the next scientific innovations. But it seems like anytime anyone does, they have to die. So this is the message I want people to take forward. This is what the American government and my mother and stepfather did to my family, did to the city of Portland and all of the talented kids in Portland, and did to the whole world. Because once the Grail family is gone, you won't have your holy representatives on earth. You won't have people like Jesus to help feed the masses and show you the way to perform miracles to save your stupid human butts when you get yourselves into bad situations. We won't be around to do that stuff anymore. And now that I've been treated this way, like my grandpa has, I have come to the conclusion that if it comes down to me helping to save the world, I will not be doing that, because I believe that the American government and my parents made their own mess. And if that means it's everyone and the American government let them do that much damage, then that's on them. Now, had I been given a good life, allowed to go do what I want and allowed to do good in the world like I wanted, my only goal would have been to save America and help the world and help feed the masses. But because I was prevented from doing that and because I was treated so appallingly, despite my talents and my skills, I told you I was a straight A student in college. I was in the Honor Society and on the Dean's List. I got a full ride scholarship to George Fox University. I was being recruited by Harvard. Then I was prevented from being able to do any of that. I majored in psychology, journalism, history, English. I was double majoring. I knew several languages. I had a genius level IQ. And all I wanted to do was help the world. So, you know, the 30 years of rock and roll history that me and the kids of Portland may have helped get out there, that is still coming out to this day, let that stand as our serious contribution now that a lot of those people aren't here anymore. A lot of these kids are no longer alive to speak up for themselves and tell their stories, and that's why they told their stories. Because they saw what happened to my grandfather. They saw what my family was doing to our family. They saw what they were doing to the city of Portland. Build a city, build it ugly. And, you know, they wanted to get their stories told because they knew that they might not have long, and they knew that everything might be silenced and covered up. So they got their songs and their movies and stuff into as many hands as they could. And that's what I want you to do with this video. Save it, keep copies. You can go look up my grandpa Norman Liberty's patents online and verify that yes, he did invent those things. You know, how you go through the checkout at the grocery store and get your luggage at airports is all because of my grandpa. The fact that you have canned foods. And this is the way they thanked us for that. So, because of that, I won't be able to, you know, if they come to ask me now, like if they wait till I get stuck in a nursing home and then show up and say they're going to take the case as an M case, but they need to know how to prevent worldwide or, you know, how to stop my mother. That is stuff I won't be able to help them with at this point because they let this happen to me. I was a normal, healthy 30, 40 something year old, and they allowed this to happen. They had prior knowledge of the contractors and my family's stuff and certain people before I was even brought across state lines. The FBI had prior knowledge. And they failed to act, which means that they were behind allowing it to happen and probably even sanctioning it and paying for it. So when they say that the American government works with the mob, like you've heard other mobsters come out of Witsec and tell their stories that they believe the American government is paying the mob to kill people, this is yet one other testimony to say that yes, I believe that is the case too. I believe my mother has made a substantial profit and has been given a carte blanche to just go K whoever she wants, as many people as she wants, commit mass casualty events, the whole 9 yards. And if the federal government felt that my mom getting people up in the presidency was that big of a THREAT, they would have done something even before I was brought across state lines. So, and they let it happen to the Turpin kids too, and they probably still haven't told the Turpin kids that they should probably be entitled to reparations and maybe should file a class action against Lockheed. And I think TI should do that too. And I think they very often don't tell the victims of illegal testing that they are victims of illegal testing. And I think the mob is signing people up in droves without their knowledge or consent for that. And that could be why, if you feel like a targeted individual, why that could be happening. So that's my video for today. Please don't forget my grandfather Norman Liberty's legacy and contributions to the world. Please don't forget mine. Please don't forget Arthur Parks. Please don't forget Jesse's, Tyler's, or Alexandra's. These people could have gone on to make the world a better place, but it seems like the American government only wanted to destroy itself and everything, because I think that's what my mother plans to do here. She said once that she planned to make America, the American government, her little bee in the end, and I think she fully plans to continue to do that, and I think they plan to continue to pay her to do it. Anyhow, now that Biden has been declared to have dementia and they're starting to talk about Kamala stepping up, I think that is the only right thing to do. I do not think it will save. I don't think it'll fix all this. I think that is one step in the right direction towards fixing it, but I do not think that it can stop whatever my mother's bad plan is, and there was a whole lot more that they can be looking forward to in the future involving that bad revelation plan. So save copies, get it out there on the internet, post it everywhere, share it in conspiracy forums, and make sure it gets out there, because I have a feeling they're going to cover all of this up. And no, I never, ever would have ever given anyone any kind of permission over my life ever. That was stuff that may have been done against my will while I was in a coma or being put into a coma. So, yeah, this is how the American government steals people's lives away, using the mob to do it. And this is how they pay for it and get all of their illegal human testing done. And this is the stuff they don't want people to know. So God bless America. It's one nation under Satan now. God can't help us now. God can't help us now. God, you guys have shown the world and shown God what you think humanity's worth by allowing all of this to happen. And if God lets the world be destroyed, and your last descendant lets the world be destroyed at this point because of all of this, it's only because it is nothing more than that. That is the testament of what of humanity at this point. That is what I see in humanity at this point, which is sad, because there's a whole lot of good people in the world that shouldn't have to suffer and die because of what the federal government's done, and what they've allowed. But that's what they chose. The federal government, in letting my mother get this far, chose to let everyone die. So if World War III breaks out, if another pandemic breaks out, if Project 2025 comes in and it turns into a dictatorship that we can never undo, that is because that's what the American government wanted and allowed and paid for to happen. You are welcome, American people. Make sure everyone knows, and God bless.